Can you look at the camera?
While we get on record, and we're back with the Dr. Z show.
I'm on the internet.
He's shocked that he's on the internet.
Help me! I'm trapped inside this box.
And not in your hobo zone.
I'm not in the hobo zone.
Move to the new area.
Yeah, I'm an adult.
All right, so joining us on the show, you may or may not notice, is Ian. He has an aversion to cameras stealing his soul, so he will be a little box in the corner that will sometimes light up when he wants to talk about things.
Is that movie Shudder?
Huh?
Like that horror movie where people's souls were getting stolen?
Which one?
Shudder?
I think it was just called Shudder, because there's Shutter Island with Leonardo DiCaprio, which has nothing to do with that. And then there's just Shudder, which is a film.
Shudder's the horror film where these guys, they used a camera to videotape them doing something rather heinous, and the ghost of the girl that was the victim of the heinous act is haunting them through that camera.
Wow, that's cool.
I think it was originally a Korean movie.
I approve.
I mean, most horror movies like that are usually like Korean or Asian. Reminds me of like Fatal Frame. But on that note, that is sort of related, kind of, and not at all.
You're pointing and shooting.
Well, yes, so it is related. So everything's related now. Jump and shoot, man.
I like this way.
So this is the last. This is episode 32, part 3 that we're doing after episode 34 or something because we're bad at math. This is the final part of our shooter series where we're going to talk about first-person shooters. Specifically, since there are like a million first-person shooters, we're going to talk about ones that were very influential, like in the development of the genre, and then ones that are our favorites, because the show is about us and not about you.
Yeah, until you make comments. You have to comment on the videos.
This is
like, comment, and subscribe. Make sure to smash that like button.
Every time somebody says that...
Take the like button, rip it out of the computer, feed it to a bloody pulp.
Yeah, every time I hear someone say that, like a popular YouTuber, I just imagine, like, their fan, like, their one fan who's, like, too obsessed with them, just, like, taking their monitor and just, like, smashing it, like, with their fist.
It's like an old World of Warcraft rage video.
Oh, man.
From the early 2000s.
Alright, speaking of raging at things that are old, so the first games we have to bring up on the show are Doom and Wolfenstein. And not Wolfenstein for the Atari 2600, because there was a side-scrolling one that was weird and had stealth mechanics, even though everything was pixels. Well, everything's now pixels, but you know what I mean. Wolfenstein 3D, which, correct me if I'm wrong, came before Doom?
It did, a year before, 1992, I believe.
Really?
But shooting Nazis apparently in the early 90s was not nearly as exciting as shooting demons from hell.
Fun fact about Wolfenstein is
it actually fun?
Well, no, it was, I can't remember which country it was, but apparently killing people was okay, but people couldn't handle killing the dogs, the German Shepherd enemies.
Oh, yeah, I heard about this.
So what country was it? But they turned the dogs into rats. So the Nazis in Wolfenstein 3D, and I can't remember which country it was, but they used weaponized rats instead of weaponized attacked German Shepherds.
I want to say it was a European country, but I might be wrong.
I think it was.
I'm going to look it up, because I'm not sure, and I want to know.
I forgot that detail. Oh, see, man, now I'm curious. It was on the Wikipedia article.
Yeah, wow, that's crazy.
Mutant Rats were in the Super Nintendo port. That's the first thing to come up. Replaced by giant mutant rats. And the Super Nintendo... it just says the Super Nintendo port.
Okay, so maybe it was not a... I could have sworn... I don't know. I read that article originally when I was in high school.
Place with terror bites.
No, first person, not rail shooters.
Theoretically, it is a first-person shooter.
In
But
theory.
All right, the $1 million question: is Pokemon Snap a first-person shooter?
due to the fact that you said no to Time Crisis, it is a rail shooter.
That's true. It would be a rail shooter.
That's very true. Think about that. Anyway, digress.
So Doom or Wolfenstein?
Which is better? Is that the question?
Well, which one did you play more, or which is better?
Neither.
Since you played neither. Which is better?
Doom's more iconic, I think, personally.
Well, let's take it all the way to today. The new Doom from 2017?
Yeah.
It was 17?
2019.
It wasn't No, it wasn't 19. Hold on, I have it right here. Doom, it doesn't say. 16.
2016?
2016 is when it came out. Fantastic game.
I think
or Wolfenstein: The New Order.
Wolfenstein New Order.
Why?
I've heard of more people talking about playing it. Some people, I've heard some people mention the other, like the new Doom, and they've been like, "Oh yeah, it was a good throwback," and like that was it. Like that's all they said.
Okay, my takeaway from both was that Doom was fantastic. I loved playing it. New Order I actually had to stop playing because there's a mission like early on. It's like the 5th or 6th mission, where there's like this really kind of long stealth sequence where you have to like knife all these people. And like if you get you can be spotted, but if you get spotted, then like the cock-up cascade starts, and you're just like kind of fucked for the rest of the level. But I was playing that mission, and then I was like, oh, it's like 3 o'clock in the morning, like I better go to bed. I went to bed, and I had this like horrible nightmare about like that I like went crazy and like went on this like knife rampage spree and just like started knifing people. And I woke up like 4 or 5 hours later in like drenched in sweat, and I was like, okay, I need to stop playing Wolfenstein. Like I need to not do this anymore. It was rough. I was like, oh no, can't do that. But Doom, on the other hand, great, fantastic game, no problems. I don't know. I don't know like what it was. Maybe it was the fact that I was playing 3 o'clock in the morning. Like maybe, but oh man, that's the only time that something that I can think of like that has happened.
You used to make fun of me for feeling guilty about killing people in Oblivion.
Well, yeah, because you can't separate your own moral choices from the choices of a fictional character you play in a fantasy world.
Nope.
Which is kind of bizarre. I guess it's also why you don't play Grand Theft Auto.
You're talking to the guy. I played all of Mafia 2, driving the speed limit and on the road, not on the sidewalk. I also did Saints Row 3. I did the same thing. I drove on the road. There weren't posted speed limits, but I didn't crash into anybody, and I didn't mow down civilians on the road.
Moving on.
Fun fact: Ian has a conscience when it comes to video games.
Okay, so
it's hard for me to play through the dark versions of storylines. I tried to play through the dark storyline for Spider-Man: Web of Shadows, and I could one, it was kind of a long game, and so I didn't want to start it again. But the other part of me was just like,
You like felt bad about it, or like?
Yeah, I was just.
I don't know about the Web of Shadows storyline. So like, what does the dark version do? Like, does he kill people? Like, does he?
I don't remember all of the exact choices you can make, but one of them is like you can choose to cheat on Mary Jane with Black Cat or not.
Oh gosh.
So I was just like,
okay. I do like the ultimate storyline where Black Cat like finds out that Spider-Man is like half her age, and yeah, in the Ultimate comic, Spider-Man and Black Cat are like doing their like back and forth like thing or whatever, and Black Cat says she's gonna kiss him and takes off his mask and realizes that because in the Ultimate storyline, Felicia's like in her mid-30s and Parker's still. I don't even think he's graduated high school at this time.
Oh man.
He either hasn't yet or just did. And so she like freaks out and vomits on his costume.
That's amazing.
I want to say she like faints or something too, but I remember reading that comic and being like, "Oh, okay, so this is like way different than the original story, whatever."
Not rocking the cradle.
Right. Well. So I'm gonna agree with thank you. I'm gonna agree with Jacob on this, in that Doom is more iconic.
People
also,
are trying to put Wolfenstein on printers.
Well, they got that to work.
Did you see the thing where somebody was playing Doom with their car? Yeah, somebody because a lot of cars have computers and.
Okay.
No, it was controlled with their car.
So they mapped all of the buttons to like the
gas, the brake, the stick shift, the steering wheel.
That seems horrible. Like that could go horribly wrong very quickly.
Yeah.
Did anyone die?
I mean, it was on YouTube, so I didn't. At least in the video they showed me, I can't even remember who showed it to me. At least in the video I saw, nobody died.
They took a bunch of drugs, and they thought that the people around them were demons, and so they started.
That happens in an Adult Swim cartoon, actually.
Were they parodying the '90s hysteria for stuff like this?
Happens in Fringe.
Anyway.
Fringe.
So, do we put it to a vote? Doom?
I guess Doom is technically more iconic. I mean, Wolfenstein pioneered it, but people tend to focus more on Doom.
Doom was also a lot longer, and the sequels to Doom came much quick. Well, the sequel to Doom came much quicker, and then Doom 3 decided to take its time coming out, because Carmack and Romero like both kind of went nuts and in different directions.
Yeah, one made Daikatana, the other one. I don't even remember what the other one did. Anyway, I didn't actually play either of the games until I was in high school. I played Wolfenstein on. It came on the copy of Return to Castle Wolfenstein for the original Xbox, which I played. I haven't finished either game. I've only played the first level of the original.
Mecha Hitler.
I did fight him. But then like there's like the prequel-ish levels where it's like Hans, Gretel, and I can't remember the other boss.
Hans Gruber.
Doom. I've only ever finished the first level of Doom. Well, I didn't finish it. I got to the last boss and he killed me. I was playing a Flash version of it on one of those netbooks.
Oh, the first area. Okay, you say level, and I'm like. Chapter.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes a lot more sense.
Yeah. The first chapter. It was the Flash version of Doom. I was playing it on one of those high school netbooks in AP Government when nobody was there because it was the day of prom and everybody took the day off except for like me and two other people.
Did we take the day of prom off?
I didn't.
I didn't either. I mean, the three of us didn't have government together, but I don't.
My whole AP, like most of my AP government class was out.
Who did you have?
Dr. Holla.
Oh, okay, that's why.
Yeah.
That's actually why they took the day off, because they had Holla.
Yeah. So yeah, I don't remember if I was supposed to be doing anything, but I was playing Doom. And Dr. Holla had his feet up on the desk and was, I don't know, typing something up on Google Docs. I don't know.
Oh man, he was obsessed with Google Docs. Anyway, we're getting way off topic.
But
okay, so jumping ahead several years, we're gonna move to PlayStation 2 and Nintendo 64 era. The trifecta at the time: GoldenEye, Time Splitters, and Perfect Dark.
Perfect Dark was my first M-rated game and first-person shooter.
So you didn't play GoldenEye?
No.
And is GoldenEye rated T? For some reason, I always think it's rated T, but I can never remember.
I don't think there was an M rating at the time, was there?
There was. Perfect Dark came out like a year later, and it was rated M.
Perfect Dark might have been one of the first M-rated games, too. Let me check. That sounds about right.
Yeah, GoldenEye was more popular because it was rated T13. I think
Mortal Kombat. Okay, Mortal Kombat was the
Kombat.
Right. I forgot about that.
So why is Perfect Dark rated M when GoldenEye's rated T?
It was the 90s.
Time Splitters is also rated T.
Was that the one you picked up at that used game shop in Utah?
That was Time Splitters too. But yes. Yeah, so GoldenEye came out in 1999 on the Nintendo 64, published by Rare. Perfect Dark came out a year later, also published by Rare. And it was the first game published on a Nintendo console to be rated M. The next one was the year later with Conker's Bad Fur Day, which is a weird game. Holy crap, is it weird.
Isn't the last boss a xenomorph?
Yes.
Or is it something that's totally not a xenomorph, but is actually a xenomorph? See, I never had an N64, so most of the stuff I hear about when it comes to N64 is hearsay. Like, I never played... I played a little bit of GoldenEye on your Wii once. I think we might have tried to play a little bit on your N64, but no, I never actually owned an N64. Or a PS2, for that matter, so none of these things I can really weigh in on.
Okay, so it seems that Perfect Dark was rated M because there was a lot more blood. There were a lot of references like to drugs, and there's a lot more cursing in it because a lot more of the game was voice acted compared to GoldenEye, which wasn't voice acted at all. Interesting. Okay, I never realized that, and like I have a copy of Perfect Dark. I don't really ever play it, but never noticed. So what? Have either of you played Time Splitters?
No.
Yes, for like a hot second at a neighbor's house once. But fun fact, the first M-rated, I think M-rated Nintendo game is Turok.
Turok 2: Seeds of Evil.
No, just the first Turok.
The first Turok was rated M as well?
Mm-hmm.
What is it? What does it say?
I don't know, but it's the first person.
What the hell was that? Now I gotta put a sound warning at the beginning of this video. What the hell was that noise?
He was a raptor. Ian became a velociraptor.
I noticed it came from Ian. What was that sound?
Wait, did that come from my end?
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty sure it did.
Your little thing lit up.
Yeah, what? It was a scream.
It didn't come from me, and it didn't come from Jacob.
Scream.
I'll be right back.
Oh no.
The episode where we discover that like Ian's house
is haunted.
Yeah, it's like just horribly haunted.
Oh jeez. Okay. Well,
I totally thought that was Ian who
I don't know what to do now. Like, I don't know if we should continue the show or like stop and come back.
This does make me kind of afraid.
It sounded like a sound effect, though, right?
Yeah.
It did. No, it sounded like a video. Yeah, I thought he was watching like a Turok video because what Jacob said made sense. But I just wanted to be sure.
Unless it's his brother.
There was no way that was his brother.
No, like watching some weird video.
Oh, okay. Okay. Well, on that note, so did I don't know, like we gotta continue the show. Like, I mean, I guess, right? Like on that note,
we should talk about Chex Quest.
Chex Quest? The Doom clone?
Yeah.
Yeah, if you don't know what Chex Quest is, go check out our first 2 episodes where I play Chex Quest. Or was it the first 3? It might have been the first 3.
Yeah.
You'll be able to look it up on our wiki, which is coming soon to a Wikipedia near you.
Yeah.
So GoldenEye or Perfect Dark, since you didn't really play Time Splitters.
I played more Perfect Dark.
Okay. You played more Perfect Dark. In terms of like
GoldenEye
has
more cultural impact. People are still talking about GoldenEye. People still talk about not picking Odd Job because it's unfair. Like,
I always picked Odd Job. I was that asshole. Like, I was always Odd Job. The hat.
Do you find out what the blood curdling scream?
Yeah,
was?
what was that noise? Ian, are you there? It was him.
It's the monster.
I'm back.
On his computer.
What happened?
I need to move out. Nobody knows.
What do you mean nobody knows? Nobody made that noise?
It's my mom.
Your mom made that noise. What did she see? A rat?
They didn't know. My dad and my brother don't know.
Your mom just made that sound and no one went to find out if she's okay?
It was Oni.
No, my brother wasn't fixing her phone. I don't know. They're not listening. Who knows?
What the fuck? Like, what the fuck?
Happy Halloween! This is our Halloween episode.
I guess fucking so. Holy shit. Like, I could take that sound clip of that screaming and, like, play it for Halloween sound effects. And, like, that would be the only one that I need. Because it was terrifying. And so now I gotta put a sound warning on that episode. Excuse me. I gotta put a sound warning on this episode because that just comes out of nowhere. You're on the little, like, it's just your little anime picture and it's not like a camera. So we don't know what the fuck is happening. Oh my god. I'm getting heated.
Okay, so Ian, do you think that Perfect Dark or GoldenEye has more cultural impact?
Oh, well, that's not the question. No, that's not the question because the answer is
the question is what you prefer.
Well, the question is what had more impact on the genre, not cultural impact. I would say impact on the genre itself of just first-person shooters. And I'm gonna say it was Perfect Dark. GoldenEye, yes, because okay, so GoldenEye built the formula, right? It was like this is what we need to be a first-person shooter.
Okay.
On like the other first-person shooters like existed, but they didn't have like a big multiplayer focus, so they weren't like, you know, they had like weird kind of wonky controls like in Doom and Wolfenstein where you like can break the sound barrier by running. Like GoldenEye was like, okay, this is a first-person shooter. Like, and it's really what we have to blame for like all of like the realistic military shooters that we have today. So GoldenEye was like, this is the formula, right? Perfect Dark was like, oh yeah, we're gonna have a little robot with the turret, and we're gonna have hover bikes, and you're gonna have all these gadgets that don't like come out of your watch, like, and then you're gonna have a stealth section where you're like actually like trying to be a ninja, and it had like
that makes sense.
It was sort of the Saints Row to GoldenEye's like Grand Theft Auto 4.
Yeah.
And I think that's partially because Goldeneye was trying to follow the film, which was very like, you know, Bond, like super spy, like movie. And so I think Perfect Dark had a lot more like freedom in terms of like its creativity and like where it could go with things. But Goldeneye also, the other thing about Goldeneye is neither of the games aged well, but I think Goldeneye aged worse.
Huh, really?
Yeah.
I mean, because I still see like mods for Goldeneye, like Half-Life 2 mods to, you know, bring back Goldeneye.
Oh, done in like the Source engine.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense. I might have, I think we might have talked about this off air at some point.
Yeah, I played. That's the only Goldeneye I've ever played. Was the Source engine mods for it.
Can I get a fork, please?
Yeah.
Sorry, my wife brought me dinner because she's great, and I didn't help make dinner because I'm terrible. And because we're doing this now instead of earlier when we wasted an hour and a half talking about something. I don't even remember.
Lots of things.
Lots of things.
Anyway, so neither of you played much Time Splitters.
I remember it existed.
Yeah, the first time I ever heard of it was when you bought the sequel at that.
That was the first time, really? That was last year.
Yeah, I'd never heard of it.
No, wait, that was this year. Holy shit!
It was
this year. Yeah.
Why does April feel like it was like 4 or 5 years ago? That feels. I'm gonna be honest with you guys. That feels so long ago.
Kinda, yeah.
I don't know about 4 or 5 years though.
I mean, yeah, maybe not that long, but it feels like a long time ago. Anyway, moving on from the screaming and the Goldeneye and the Perfect Dark.
The screaming and the Goldeneye.
Time Splitters was much newer. It was like the PlayStation's answer to Unreal Tournament. Because Unreal Tournament had come out for PC, and so they were like, oh, we need something great. And it was Time Splitters 2. Ended up being like, it's considered like by a lot of people, especially people that like grew up playing PlayStation, to be one of the best like shooters like at the time, like that there had ever been. And it's not bad. It's a good game. I like it. Story's a little weird in that I couldn't tell you what happened in it, but I know that it was strange. It's been a while since I've played it.
Yeah, you basically time traveling secret agents, right?
The time part of Time Splitters. Yeah.
Yeah.
Try not to chew into the microphone. But we'll move on, and you guys can mention this because you were around and playing games when these came out. Halo and Call of Duty Modern Warfare.
Never played Modern Warfare, but I did play a lot of Halo.
You never played Modern Warfare, really?
Nope, not once. I played Modern Warfare 2 like in 2011.
Should I make the cake tonight?
Yeah.
Make sure you drink some first. It turns out better, if tradition is to be believed.
Drink some what?
You know, Claire drinking and making cake.
Ian says you have to drink when you make cake.
Okay.
She's exhausted by you. The drunk cake story. I won't tell it on the show because Claire hates it. But...
Okay.
Long story. Okay, she just says she doesn't hate it. Long story short, one of the first times Claire ever came over, it was a mutual friend of ours' birthday, and Claire found out after a bottle and a half of wine.
No. Okay. You always exaggerate. It was 2/3.
Okay, after 2/3 of a bottle of wine, a bottle and a half was gone by the end of the night. After 2/3 of a bottle of wine, decided she was going to make a cake from scratch, even though she had just met this person. And then, as I usually say, exaggerating, she destroyed my parents' kitchen and was found an hour later on the floor in front of the mixer, covered in flour and sobbing because she couldn't get the icing right. because she wanted to make icing from scratch as well.
Aw. But that
Very
was
good cake, though.
That was so nice of her.
It was very nice of her. It was also the first time where I was like, okay, this might be... She might be the one. One of the first times I think I thought that. Anyway, so Jacob was a Halo child then.
Sort of. Okay, so I never played the first Halo, and I never played the first Modern Warfare, but I played the crap out of Halo 2, and I played a lot of Modern Warfare 2.
Have you still to this day not played Combat Evolved?
No.
Wow.
I played a little bit. I played a little bit of the re-release, like the Master Chief Edition or whatever, at a work retreat. That's it.
Okay, I was like at work.
Played for like 30 minutes at a work retreat. Yeah.
Yep. You ought to give him. Don't you have a free copy of, or not a free copy, but a?
I have a zipped copy of Halo somewhere. It's on one of my hard drives. I'll have to dig it up for you and send it to you. Because the original is out of copyright now. Fun fact.
Really?
Yeah. Because of the legality and like the legalese that's written into the Master Chief Collection and the Anniversary Edition, the original one fell out of copyright because they had to write out the copyright for the first one so that they could release Anniversary Collection. Because remember, Bungie split.
Oh, okay.
And so Bungie technically owns the rights to Halo Combat Evolved, but when they split, they lost a lot of when they divorced from Microsoft, they lost the kids in the divorce. And so technically nobody owns the original Combat Evolved anymore.
It's an orphan.
It's not an orphan because his parents aren't dead. They just split up and left it to die.
It's like my old manager. Well, they didn't leave him to die.
So does that mean, is it getting
It's like, holy shit.
Oh no, they did not leave him to die. But one of my old managers, when he was a senior in high school, his parents got divorced and they just left. They paid the bills. They sent him money, but yeah, he's lived in the house. He went to school at Hayfield, actually.
Was that your manager at the pizza place?
Yeah, the first one. Yeah.
All right, that we won't name on air because we're not sponsored.
But yeah, he had his whole senior year. He lived by himself.
Yeah, I remember I remember driving you to your interview. Or no, I drove you there to get an application, and the guy interviewed you and hired you on the spot.
Yeah.
And I remember you saying that the interview was basically you and him talking about how like the modern education system was like a joke.
Basically, yeah, because he went to Hayfield as well. And he's like, all right, yeah, I know you don't have server experience, but I'm gonna take a chance and hire you anyway.
And then you became a bartender, and they were very sad to see you go.
Yeah, I would pop in there every once in a while, and it's like, hey, you wanna come back? Nope. Nope.
What do you mean you pop in there every once in a while? You still go there after work to drink?
Not anymore. I haven't for a long time because
really?
all of the people.
I thought you were just there like 3 days ago. I was talking to you. I was like, hey, where are we gonna hang out?
Oh yeah, well that was an uncommon thing because that was what was it? It was Labor Day weekend. The company closed early, so and then one of my old regulars who I talk to pretty regularly outside of the bar now. He lives in Maryland now. But he's like, hey, I'm gonna be in the area. I'm like, oh, what a coincidence! The company closed early. But basically, the reason that I don't go there anymore is because by the time I'm in the area, everybody who I would go there to talk to is not there because I'm there much later. They come in earlier on weekdays, so there wasn't really much point in me going there because nobody that would go there to talk to was there anymore. So no, I don't. It was much easier at my previous job. Because I would pass there on the way home from work, and I wasn't driving an hour at least to get home from work. But yeah,
then you die.
Basically.
So, okay, we'll take them both as a series, I guess, and we'll cut at the third for Modern Warfare and for Halo as well. overall, what series had more of an impact on the first-person shooter genre? And there is a correct answer to this question.
I would say, as a series.
As a series.
Oh.
What impacted the first-person shooter genre more?
As a series, probably Halo.
Why? Why do you say Halo?
Halo 1 at the time was. I didn't play Halo 1 until I wasn't allowed to play M games. I didn't play it until I was in high school. But from what I understand from a historical perspective, at the time, it was a very groundbreaking bit of software in terms of just what it did, how it ran, even the storytelling. Like the storytelling, it was in hindsight, it's pretty simple, but it was this cool sci-fi story. I don't really know where I'm going with.
Cortana, did we lose things?
I don't really know where I'm going with this because my I don't know what I would pick for the series. I guess because in terms of games, I would say Call of Duty 4 was the most influential of the lot.
Jacob,
I would say that Halo, from a storytelling perspective, because it. Why are you shaking your head?
I disagree heavily with that. But go ahead. I want to hear your reasoning.
Do you think that Call of Duty is better?
Okay.
More influential, I guess?
Here's where we have to separate the ethos. I personally love the Halo series more than it's in terms of series of games. That's up there for me as one of my favorites. Even though Halo 2 was wicked hard for kind of no reason. And Halo 3 is backtracking the game, so they only had to design half a game. Halo was more influential to a degree, and the degree was gameplay mechanics. It wasn't like. And here's where I disagree with the storytelling thing. While the story was good and it was new and it was interesting, it was far from the first game to have a new and interesting story. And this is just, we're just talking about first-person shooters. We're not talking about any, other kind of genres of games. Call of Duty 4 and the Modern Warfare series after that, I feel like perfected what it was to tell a good story that could be almost relatable, and that people had emotions, kind of more so than in Halo. Because in Halo, the characters you see having emotion, in the first game, you as a character, as Master Chief, you have no emotions.
Yeah,
and Cortana as an AI has no emotions. Oh.
They don't go into their emotional states until Halo 4.
Right, and emotions happen to you, spoiler alert for Combat Evolved, you're sad when you have to kill Captain Keyes to get his implant to go unlock the doors and escape. But that happens to you as a player. It doesn't happen to the characters in the game. In the Modern Warfare series, especially the first one, all of the emotional impacts of the story happen to you and your characters. Your characters feel, they're fictional, but your characters feel those emotions, and you feel you have empathy for them.
Yeah.
So I feel from a storytelling perspective, Modern Warfare was more influential. From a gameplay and mechanics perspective, I feel that was Halo. So I'd have to split it.
Yeah. So
that's a better summary than what I was going to say.
Yeah, I was gonna say that Halo.
I kind of went too long. That was kind of long-winded, but
no, that was good. Personally, I've never played the storyline for any of the Call of Duty games. So my opinion there is, pretty biased. Like if all I have is Halo to go off of, I'm going to love it. And ODST is one of my favorite games, but that's because it plays like a Metroid Prime game, which is, but I think that Halo was,
as an aside, that being your favorite game or your favorite series, ever.
I think that Halo was more influential in design for game developers, but I think that Call of Duty did I guess what I'm saying is I think that Call of Duty did a better job of monetizing first-person shooters as a genre and like popularizing them. Because a lot of, but I would also say that most people that I know, like I could ask them like, who's the main character of Halo? Master Chief. Good. Like, name a character in a Call of Duty series, and they'd be like, they'd be like, right.
No, I understand what you mean.
So I guess that's what I'm getting at is that like and the other thing is that I think a lot of people who play Call of Duty, they're Call of Duty people. Like that's what they do. There's some people that play different games.
I understand what you're saying. That's kind of a weird way to say it, but I understand what you're saying.
But I know that I think that there's some people who have their series that they play. Like there's some people who will never play Halo because they're like, I play Call of Duty. And then there's the Halo people who are like, I'm never going to play Call of Duty. And then there's the people who play Counter-Strike and they're like, PC gaming is infinitely better and I'm never touching anything else.
We'll get there. I feel that way about people that play sports games. There are tons of people I know that bought a PlayStation to play FIFA.
Yeah.
I remember, I don't know if you were with me when we went to GameStop and the clerk was so tired because they had done a FIFA release, and she said that the people that came in to play FIFA, they were like weasels, and they came in and looked around and were like, FIFA? Got the new FIFA? It's the new FIFA? We have the new FIFA? It was, and now Claire and I make fun of that every time we go into a GameStop or a store anywhere, and somebody's like, "Oh, FIFA, FIFA, got the new FIFA."
I actually know a guy.
FIFA.
I know a guy that he plays FIFA.
FIFA?
He's a pretty high ranked online Overwatch player, and he's a competitive Tekken player.
Does he play FIFA?
He does play FIFA, and every time I hear him talk about FIFA, it's how bad it is as a monetized game. It's kind of a pay to win. It's a pay to win game, and it's competitive. Its competitive aspect is really bad. As an esport, it would be really awful because you could you as the player control. You have a team of 8 people, and you control one player at a time. A lot of the game is the AI playing soccer.
Playing itself.
Yeah. You can influence it by switching who you control, but in the end, there's a lot of...
That's a really good way to put why that game is garbage, and why games like that are terrible.
And that's not...
It's the AI playing itself.
Yeah.
You have the power to influence it a little bit. That's why games like NBA Jam were really popular. Because, there's 2 characters. You switch back and forth between them. Sometimes.
Madden NFL Blitz 2002 for the GameCube. Best.
Was it the football?
The Blitz series was that game where you could
you could have
break a bunch of rules.
Yeah, you could have cheat codes and have everyone's heads on fire, wearing mascot costumes and stuff. It was really fun.
Blitz series was super weird. Anyway, this is not a sports game episode.
Sports.
I agree with your sports. Should we go to them? I agree with what you're saying, though, about Halo, and Call of Duty, and those different in that kind of differences regard. But before we were going to talk about Halo and Call of Duty, I actually failed to mention this because I drew a weird thing on my notes about it.
It was a coda.
Well, because you brought up Counter-Strike, and that's what reminded me. Counter-Strike, Quake 3,
Combat
Unreal Tournament, 2004. Jacob, you're getting a punch in the throat. What was... I want to say there's a correct answer to this as well. What is the most influential on the competitive scene? Starting from Unreal Tournament 2004, Quake 3, Counter-Strike. Counter-Strike famously being a mod for Halo, which was modded off of the Quake engine.
Wasn't that a Half-Life mod? I thought it was
Sorry, yeah, I said Halo. I meant Half-Life. Wow, that was dumb. Yeah. Half-Life was modded. The engine for Half-Life, not the source engine. The engine for Half-Life was heavily modified Quake engine that was then modified again slightly for Counter-Strike. Half-Life also great game. First-person shooter. One. So,
should I go first?
did you play all three or any of the three?
I've only played a little bit of Counter-Strike, but I have a kind of a similar answer to the last one. I think that Counter-Strike is more, like, I've heard of more people who've played Counter-Strike. I've heard more people talk about it just in their life. But I think that the Unreal tournament, and maybe therefore Quake, because Unreal was built off of it. The Unreal Engine has been used to make so many games that I think that from a development perspective, Unreal has it. But from a...
Has it, like, without question?
Yeah, but from a popularity thing, I would say Counter-Strike.
I'm going to agree because Unreal Tournament 2000... And, like, I might get shit for this, but it's unlikely. Unreal Tournament 2004 was the last good Unreal Tournament. They made Unreal Tournament 3, and they tried to give it a story focus, which...
It was barely there.
Is weird. It was barely there, and when it did happen, it was very weird.
It didn't make sense.
Because it's an arena shooter. Like, that would be like giving Quake 3 Arena a story.
So there was a web series. Well, not a web series, like a YouTube series I saw. It was, I guess, done by...
Ubisoft, so it does technically qualify as a web series.
Well, you know what I mean. It was a series somebody made on YouTube where they did make a Quake 3 story starring the guy from Doom, and it was about...
Doom guy!
Well, they just called him Doom.
Yeah.
But it was about sort of rebelling against the Vajragar, the things that kidnapped everybody. Yeah, did you know that there was Quake 3 lore? All the greatest champions of the universe were kidnapped by these aliens.
No, I know.
The Vajragar.
I mean, I know that. Probably a lot of people don't know that, but I know that because we spent a lot of time in the computer systems class we had in high school modding Quake 3. I mean, well, I did, but...
I mean, I was the artist.
You and Patrick just bitched at each other all day. Anyway, moving on.
Like Patrick bitched at me all day.
Neither here nor there.
Anyway, but yeah, somebody did what was it called? The series was called Chosen by the Vajragar. It might still be on YouTube.
Probably.
But yeah, it was but yeah, they had. It wasn't a Quake. It wasn't like what do you call it? What's that Halo mod web series?
Oh, Red versus Blue.
Yeah, it wasn't like that where it was a machinima thing. It was actually like animated from scratch.
Wow.
Yeah.
Really?
Animated from scratch, had voice acting, had fights, had sound effects from the game, introduced characters.
Interesting.
It was cool. Yeah, Chosen by the Vajragar. Yeah, the whole thing is, you can finish it in maybe an hour or two.
All the hell of a time trying to spell Vajragar because I can't for the life of me remember how it's spelled, but
Vajragar, I think.
Oh,
yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, slight bit from high school. So yeah, you can apply stories to arena shooters, I guess. Unreal Tournament 3, if there is a way to do it, they didn't do it correctly. I spent a weekend with a friend playing Unreal Tournament 3, and I mean, I didn't know what Unreal Tournament was at the time. I was in It was early high school, I think. And I'd seen previews for it. I'm like, oh, this looks really cool. And I didn't know what an arena shooter was. I thought everything was like Gears of War or Halo. I was late to the party when it came to first-person shooters. I didn't play Halo 2 until I was in middle school. I played Halo 1 years after I played Halo 3.
I remember trying to coerce Jacob, like, very early into our friendship into playing Unreal Tournament 2004.
You got it for me when it was on sale a couple of years ago. I mean,
Yeah, you both own it on Steam because of me.
Yeah.
And I was like, hey, you should play this with me. And you guys were like, this game is dumb.
I played a knockoff of it called Warpath. That was very bad.
You just love playing games that are terrible.
Well, I got it. It was like $5 for a PC game, and the box art looked cool. I got it when I was like 11. I was like, oh, this looks sweet. And then I finally played it 4 or 5 years ago, and you couldn't once you were supposed to have choices in terms of like the different enemies and factions you could go fight, but once you finished the game, there were no options to restart the game at all. You couldn't erase the file and like try to play more at all. Like once it was done, it was done.
It was to get you to buy multiple copies of the game.
Yeah, but it was. I mean, the fine, but it was an Unreal Tournament knockoff, like hard.
Okay. So let's move on. We're gonna take a detour here before we get to kind of now time, and Call of Duty versus Battlefield is the showdown in terms of life first-person shooters. All right, I got you. Quick vote. What is better and why? Ian.
I like Call of Duty better.
Why?
Battlefield to me always seemed like the sort of game like whoever gets to the air vehicles first wins. Or whoever gets to the vehicles, just any of the vehicles first, whoever gets to them wins.
Okay.
I don't particularly care for vehicle combat, especially when there's the option, when it includes infantry combat. So it's like,
Okay.
I keep spawning in. Oh, the guy in the airplane just killed me. All right, I got back in. Oh, I just got blown up by a guy in a tank. Like,
Okay.
you're totally outclassed if you are. And there's a finite number of vehicles on the field. So if you're not good enough to get to those first, then you're kind of stuck.
Okay.
Do you think did it not have as good of a balance as the vehicles in Halo? Because I know that was kind of a feeling sometimes.
Hijack
like,
the
oh
vehicles
shoot,
in
like
Halo.
someone has a scorpion, it's over. But you
could hijack the vehicles in Halo.
Yeah.
Later on,
Yeah, you can hijack them, and then a lot of maps have a rocket launcher that is good.
There were also more tools to deal with vehicles in Halo than
that's
Battlefield.
absolutely true. You can snipe people out of a scorpion.
Yeah, or you can take down a warthog with a battle rifle if you were able to like dodge around enough.
Yeah, I agree.
So Halo vehicles are easier to deal with if you don't have one because they're not as sort of over, and especially I mean like the Banshee. The Banshee is like the Banshee compared to say like a fighter jet or a fighter plane in Battlefield. A Banshee is it's slower, it's easier to see. And you have more options to deal with it. And there aren't as many of them. Like Banshee, like Halo 2, for example. There were Banshees in like 2 or 3 of the maps. There weren't very many.
Yeah,
4?
true.
4 maps.
Okay. So yeah, there weren't many, but yeah, vehicles in Halo multiplayer games were much easier to deal with.
So, Ian says Call of Duty. Jacob?
Never played Battlefield, so like I guess Call of Duty, but from what mostly from when I heard you talking, because you had played a lot of Battlefield. When I heard you talking about it, it sounded like Battlefield that you felt that it was that its multiplayer was like mechanically superior because of the vehicles and destruction, like map destruction stuff. But
I'm going to say Call of Duty because Battlefield, its big selling point is that it's a large scale, and that's also its biggest failure. Is the scale is so large that unless you have an air vehicle, you're
Like
cheating,
PlanetSide?
or you're not that large. But Battlefield scale is so large that unless you have an air vehicle, you're cheating, or you're a million ranks higher than everybody else on the server. Like it, no matter what you do, no matter what you do in a match, it feels like useless. It feels like you barely influence the outcome.
Okay.
Meanwhile, Call of Duty, much smaller scale, only infantry. Like the mechanics are more refined because of the focus. It's more focused.
Okay.
And so they had a better. They were able to better refine the mechanics.
Like, I love Black Ops 2 so much.
So
I guess Call of Duty.
I'm going to take a second to talk about BioShock because it's great. And BioShock is, to me, one of the most influential games of the past 20 years. The way to tell a story while having good gameplay, good mechanics, and making every encounter feel fresh and interesting. Had characters that were memorable.
Atmosphere.
The atmosphere, like when you first... Nothing... And to me, like, nothing will ever feel like the first time you played BioShock. As you go down in the bathysphere and Andrew Ryan is giving you the opening monologue and you come up over the cliff and see Rapture for the first time. Like nothing can compare to like I've never had a game like that where I literally was sitting there playing the game, like listening to what was going on, like listening to the monologue, and just like coming up over the cliff and just going, oh, like there have been similar circumstances where I've been impressed, but that feeling to me as someone who plays BioShock, enjoyed the series was, it was incredible. And I have to get Jacob on the BioShock train because Jacob has never played a BioShock game. And so you have got to get on the BioShock train. I've got to get you BioShock remastered and you got to play it.
Your mic is all the way up here.
I know.
Can you make me laugh?
We'll move on. Ian wanted to talk about Titanfall, I think.
Yes. And then I'll talk about Metroid.
I remember when the first Titanfall was announced, and I remember how hyped up it was. It was marketed very well, if memory serves me correctly, and I thought
it was also
cool.
Very misleading.
Well, it was a case of I never actually played the first game. I just sort of heard about it. Well, actually, no, I didn't hear about it because the game came out and it was almost like it just didn't exist. It's like, oh, well, what happened to this game? Like, what became of this game? Like, I remember
there was no single player story in Titanfall 1.
Yeah, it was all multiplayer. It's like, oh, it's Call of Duty where you run on walls and have mechs. But here's
Titanfall 2, on the other hand.
The B and BT stands for bro. They made a very engaging and fun. Like the Titanfall 2 campaign was a lot of fun. I wish it had gone for like maybe 3 more levels just for like story pacing purposes.
I'm gonna be totally honest. I teared up at the end of the campaign of the game. I had grown so attached to that little robot. Like I was like, no.
Trust me. Yeah. No. Trust me. Protect the pilot.
I choose Superman.
But basically, kind of, yeah. Actually, no. hold on. Let's explore that a little bit. Kinda, yeah. Kinda the end of the Iron Giant. Yeah.
No, that was yeah.
Yeah. No. Yeah. Wow. Okay. I don't know why I never put that together. Hey, I never put that together before.
Yeah.
Huh.
That yeah. You stay, I go, no following. Yeah.
Huh. Big Hero 6 did the same thing. Good movie.
But it was one of those. It was one of those things where I think it was a big failure of the first game, and I think I don't know. I honestly don't know if I'm in the minority on this. Just sort of in general, and just sort of the importance of like characters in games. Now, obviously, characters in games are important, but when you get something like, say, Titanfall, for like the difference between Titanfall 1 and Titanfall 2, one of the big differences, I don't really know mechanics wise. Can anybody fill me in on that? Like,
very little.
Okay. Do you think it was because there was no single player campaign in Titanfall 1 that was why it just sort of dropped off the map? Like, that's the primary reason?
It's a reason. I don't know if I would call it the primary reason. It's a reason because the advertisement for the game and the marketing for the game was super misleading. Nowhere were like until the game came out, no one had any idea what the single player campaign was going to be like. And then it came out and it was revealed there's not one. What? You mean I paid $60 to play multiplayer on a game where there's no tutorial? I don't understand the controls. I don't understand the maps. I don't understand how any of this works. And you want to just throw me in there?
Yeah,
so unless you got the game at midnight and went home and started playing it for 12 hours, you had no idea and you were, way behind.
Yeah, I guess it does sort of function as a tutorial, but one thing about where was I going with this?
Single player games and single player storylines and multiplayer shooters teach you the mechanics of the game.
Yeah. Because I would constantly. I mean, maybe this might be because it's a series and people just sort of stop caring. But that was going back to Call of Duty. I would always hear people talk about, "Oh, I hadn't played the campaign. Oh, I don't care about the campaign. It's whatever." So it's one of those. Is it because? Do you think that's because they were already familiar with the gameplay mechanics and they specifically bought it for the multiplayer? Because you know why people buy new Call of Duty games is it's for the multiplayer, and. Well, like, what was it? Black Ops 4 didn't have a single-player campaign at all. But then you get, like in the case of Call of Duty World War II, where they put some extra effort into the single-player campaign, and the single-player campaign in Call of Duty World War II was pretty good. I mean, I've long been of the opinion. I mean, you've played one World War II shooter, you've played them all when it comes to story, because I mean it's history. Like, all right, you're going to go to this battle that actually happened, you're going to go to this place, and it's in Europe. It's like, okay, you're in France, and you can put some spins on it.
You know who wins.
You know the story. Well,
Wolfenstein's alternate history, so yeah,
it's I mean, Wolfenstein's historical fiction / Tesla punk.
Fact.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I guess still World War II. But because how just sort of comparing the two, why do Call of Duty games that focus less on single player continue to do success? Is it because they've been around longer?
This might be a good sort of philosophical question to end on. Is that your question? Why is Call of Duty so successful still?
When it comes to single player, because I mean, the point you made where Titanfall 1 didn't have a single player campaign, and that was a big part of the reason that it failed. Mm-hmm. But I mean, I guess the difference is Call of Duty games do still have single player games, or single player campaigns. But the attitude of a lot of the people that I had talked to, sort of like when Call of Duty was at the height of its popularity back when we were in high school, you'd get a lot of people who didn't really care about the campaigns. They weren't invested in it. They weren't interested in it. They just like, oh, I just want to get online and start getting my prestige rank up.
I remember a friend of ours, Chris, who you both have met before. Well, I should have said a friend of mine who you both have met before. Chris has a bumper sticker on his car from Modern Warfare 3 that just says "Eat, Sleep, Prestige."
Because it's one of those things where like fighting games are another good example of the overlap I'm trying to get here is sort of, and that was, I guess, my question involving Titanfall as well, is do you, in just the importance of characters in games and where you think, I guess, how do you think the attitudes of people affect that? Like, does the developers like just sort of slacking off in the single player campaigns in the Call of Duty games, or in the case of something like Black Ops 4, totally dropping it? Like, why does it work there, but it doesn't work in other places? You go into something like fighting games, for example, where fighting games, I mean, that's like mechanics. There's a really infamous a quote by one of the developers of Marvel, or not the it's not it was, I think it was the community manager, something like that. One of the people who worked on Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite, which I don't know what you know about the presentation of Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite.
Or
yeah, they dropped a lot of characters that were that had been in the series for a long time, characters that people liked, and
Marvel vs. Capcom also has the problem of being like so tied up in
copyright
problems that it's almost not worth it anymore. But anyway, not the point.
And so the guy, he made this really famous statement saying the characters are just functions. Like, why do people like Magneto? It's because he's strong and he's fast and he has an 8-way dash. I've never played Marvel vs. Capcom. I don't really know what that means, but it's like, oh,
that's accurate.
But like, oh, so do these other characters, so people can just play that. It was an attempt at saving PR. But what I'm getting at, I guess, is how the balance between mechanics and characters. Because, I mean, that's a big thing in first-person shooters, too. You need to... I personally, like, I was one of the few where, like, if I were to buy a Call of Duty game, I would mostly have... I wouldn't want to buy a Call of Duty game that didn't have a campaign. I don't own Black Ops 4. I know, I mean, I don't buy every Call of Duty game that comes out, but that's a big selling point. Like, I enjoyed this, some of the earlier campaigns that they had. Like, Black Ops 1 had a great campaign.
The numbers, Mason.
What do they mean? Yeah, great campaign. But I guess, again, going back to what you were saying about Titanfall, is like, where do you, like, what do you think about, I guess, sort of the difference where Titanfall failed because or the first Titanfall, you said a big part of the reason Titanfall didn't fail, or Titanfall 1 failed, and why Titanfall 2 didn't, is because of the presence of a single player campaign. But
I'm gonna back up a little bit, actually.
Okay.
I'm gonna roll that back a little bit and stop you while you go in circles.
I am very much going in circles.
Yeah. So
I'm
gonna roll that back a little bit. I think that's why Titanfall 1 failed. I don't know that is the reason. I'm sure it is a reason, but the problems that Titanfall had and Titanfall 2 had, Titanfall 1 and 2 both had, were they were published by EA. Immediately problem. Like, we'll get to my EA rant episode one of these days. And they came out, especially 2, came out very close to another huge EA launch title. And I want to say it was 2 and Battlefield 1. It was Titanfall 2 and Battlefield 1, I think, is what came out too close together. And the sales of one hurt the sales of the other. And it was the sales of Battlefield hurting the sales of Titanfall 2.
So competing against themselves.
And that was sort of the problem with Respawn developing Apex Legends. And don't get me wrong, Apex Legends is great, and I have a lot of fun playing it. But because of Apex Legends' popularity, Titanfall 3 either won't ever happen, or by the time it does happen, it will be far too late.
Don't you mean Anthem?
Everybody press your F key.
Should we end on that note?
Let us know what first-person shooter game you guys think is the most influential, and we'll see you next time on the Dr. Z Show.
Metroid Prime 2 Echo.
See ya.
Adios.